Brand new reporting in the Washington Post takes us inside the room where big money donors were urged to restrict voting unapologetically and undemocratically ahead of the 2024 election. In an exclusive new report, the Post obtained a copy of a slideshow ahead of last weekend's RNC donor retreat, a presentation that was prepared for longtime GOP lawyer Cleta Mitchell. She helped push the big lie and join the twice impeached, disgraced, and now indicted ex-president on the phone call in which he pressured Georgia officials like Brad Raffensperger to reverse Trump's election loss there. The Post reports that although it's unclear how precisely Mitchell stuck to the prepared slides, quote, the presentation, which had more than 50 slides and was labeled a level playing field for 24, offered a window into a strategy that seems designed to reduce voter access and turnout among certain groups, including students and those who vote by mail, both of which tend to skew Democratic. The Post adds that it listened to portions of what Mitchell did say at the donor retreat through recordings obtained by liberal activist Lauren Windsor. And while NBC News has not verified the clips of what Windsor herself posted, here's just a sample where Mitchell discussed limiting campus voting.
One of these college campus locations in Poland, what is this young people effort that they do? They basically put the polling place next to the student dorm, so they just had to roll out of bed, vote, and go back to bed.
Just think about that for a minute. They're pulling the alarm on the fact that college students can, as Cleta Mitchell said, roll out of bed, put on their clothes, and vote. What's wrong with that? Not that they're voting, just that they're not voting for you, right? Washington Post reports that Cleta Mitchell didn't respond to the request for comment. She also didn't respond to requests from NBC News. Voting rights attorney, founder of the site Democracy Docket, Marc Elias, joins us right now. It's nuts. It's nuts when they say it all out loud and put it in writing. But, you know, I guess that's why we needed federal voting rights legislation 2 years ago, something that I know we agree on. What do we do now? What is the today strategy for an out loud and stated plan to make sure that college students can't get out of bed, put on their clothes, and go vote?
Right. So two things. First is we need to acknowledge how outrageous it is. We have been experiencing now, under Donald Trump, starting in 2017 to the present, a normalizing of what is outrageous behavior. And this is just the latest example of it. I mean, here it is, one of the most prominent Republican lawyers talking at the Republican National Committee about how they can go about preventing college students from voting. You know, Republicans are big talking about the Constitution and the amendments and how we have to abide by the amendments, whatever the outcome may be. The 26th Amendment to the Constitution was passed in the 1970s precisely to ensure the right of young voters to vote and to not have their votes suppressed or their right to vote abridged. So that's the first thing. The second thing is we need to acknowledge that we are not going to out-organize voter suppression. The other side is arming through state legislatures, through private actors, through litigation. They are arming the right to deny wholesale the right to vote of Black, brown, and young voters. She's focusing here on young voters. And our side needs to recognize that this is not an organizing problem. This is not a messaging problem. This is a fundamental attack on voting rights, and we need to treat it as the five-alarm fire that it is.
Marc, you've said a lot of profound things on the show. I just wrote this down. We are not going to out-organize voter suppression. I feel like that was the point of Major League Baseball moving the All-Star game out of Georgia when they passed a voter suppression law. But to your point, everything went back to business as usual. There was no boycott. I mean, what is the... I agree with you on the substance. I agree with you on the appropriate response. But how do you get everybody else to sort of come when you pull the alarm?
I don't know. That's the great mystery, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right? Like we are watching democracy be dismantled and attacked on all fronts, whether it is what we see that Donald Trump did with the records in Mar-a-Lago, what you were just talking about the Supreme Court and this absolutely outrageous decision out of a district court in Texas that the Fifth Circuit, you know, by the way, the Fifth Circuit, every time I litigate in the Fifth Circuit, they tell me that my voters don't have standing. How the hell these doctors had standing just goes to show the hypocrisy of it all. But to your point, like all I can do is scream at the top of my lungs that we need to all do everything we can every single day to combat the assaults on democracy and voter suppression and undermining voting rights. And that's all I can do. And, you know, I talked to you about it, and I know it's all you can do.
Listen, I also think that there's this false sense of relief that some Democrats and democracy-loyal Republicans felt after the midterms. Yes, voters had democracy on their mind, but three things were happening. You were screaming from the rooftops. Liz Cheney and Benny Thompson, you know, the 1-6 Select Committee was broadcasting through the tales of Trump-loving Republicans precisely how he sought to destroy democracy all through the summer leading up to the midterms. And to your point, these things are happening all the time. And I wonder how you think we sustain a national conversation about voter suppression and democracy ahead of the next election. I mean, if we could figure it out here, you've got a lot of followers and fans here, maybe it would catch fire.
Yeah, so two other things were going on in the midterms that we just can't paper over. The first is we brought a lot of litigation and won. You know, Reverend Warnock in his victory speech in that Senate runoff acknowledged that the state of Georgia tried to prevent there from being Saturday voting on the Saturday after Thanksgiving.
That's right.
We went to court, we sued, and as a result, tens of thousands of Georgians, the majority of whom were black, were able to vote. So, let's not underestimate the role that played. But the second thing is, though, you know, turnout among Black voters, for example, was not as robust in the midterms as it had been before. So voter suppression is working. The fact that crazy election deniers didn't win doesn't mean that the voter suppression doesn't take a toll. So as we go into 2024 and we see the Republicans and conservatives go into overdrive, like you're seeing with Cleta Mitchell here, it is important that we continue to see the leaders of the pro-voting rights and the pro-democracy movement continue to hammer the importance of this. President Biden played an important role in doing that in 2020 and in 2022, and I'm sure he'll do so again in 2024. But everyone needs to be lifting this message up. Everyone needs to be saying it's not okay. And people who have the wherewithal to bring litigation need to do that. People who have the wherewithal, like you do, to have big megaphones and call them out need to do that. The role of the January 6th Commission was critically important. How the media covers the trials that we are going to see that Donald Trump is involved is really important, because those are fundamentally democracy litigation by another form.
Marc, Elias, you always give me something that I write down and curl up into a little thing and put on my wall and hang on to. We are not going to out-organize voter suppression. We'll be part of that. Thank you very much. To be continued, my friend.
Thank you.